today. To get the ball rolling right away, Aldermen will vote to approve a resolution on Monday's City Council meeting directing city staff to start the process of creating the conservation easement. The process should be completed within 6 months, and the creation of the wetland management plan should be completed within 12 months or so. The City of Rock Island has had a long-time partnership with the Mississippi Rivers and Towns Initiatives, which is closely known and worked with MRCTI. And I, as mayor, have personally lobbied on their behalf in Washington, D.C. One of the missions of the Mississippi Rivers and Towns Initiative is to negate flooding, not by building flood walls, but through wetland conservation and management. This aligns with our vision of wetland management plans. I would like to highlight a few facts regarding the proposed development. The 10 acres being developed are not wetlands or in the floodplain. The TIF, the Tax Increment Finance District, is being expanded geographically to include the wetlands so that the city can invest some of the property tax money on the preserving and improving the surrounding area. Approval of a conservation easement and wetland management plan means the wetlands will not be developed. We've mentioned improvements to the wetlands. This may include a number of things, whether it be walkways, whether it be bird viewing, kayaks, who knows? It's unlimited, and that's what the task force will work with. The developer plans to keep the tree line that borders the back portion of the property as a barrier between the facility and the wetlands wooded area and construct a protective berm. The truck stop is not much of a truck stop, as it is a gas station with a few diesel pumps and EV charging. The Nature's Treatment Cannabis Dispensary and gas station will incorporate eco-friendly landscaping. The city is in the process of selling the site to the developer. The developer has to meet all state and federal regulations. No federal funds are being used on this project. The city has consulted with U.S. Fish and Wildlife agencies and the Illinois Department of Natural Resources and will continue to consult with them going forward in this project. We must strive to balance the city's need for economic development with the environmental conservation, which I believe can be hand in hand. The city is committed to economic development while protecting our natural resources. And just because these people are sitting on this committee and this task force doesn't mean they're all, at this point, totally sold or committed to the project. But we want them to work side by side with this project as it proceeds to see if we can continue to reach compromise and have everybody win on this, especially the environmental. With that, I would like to introduce Jeff Eubanks with Rimac Corporation, the developer, and let you know that the groundbreaking for this development will be coming this April, 1 month from now.
Hello, as Mayor said, I'm Jeff Eubanks, the developer. I'd like to start off by thanking the council members, the city staff, and of course, Mayor Tomes. You guys have made it very easy to work with. Your leadership is obviously flowing down into this staff, and we appreciate that. We appreciate all the work that everybody's done to this point. It's very easy to say NTI is coming to Rock Island. We're very excited about it. As you can see, we've designed the site here to fit the growth that we need. We've kind of outgrown the space we're at now. This new 10-acre parcel will allow us to incorporate a smoking lounge, a food service venue out back, an entertainment area, ponds, a nice setting area. We really took a lot of time and effort, a lot of different consultants, a lot of different engineering, architects, to get to this point here to really fit this development into the area that it's at. We want to take all the natural elements around it and kind of fit it in there. We didn't want to throw just a gas station and a normal dispensary. So we've taken a lot of time to fit this. It really fits our growth. We're very excited about the new committee. We're looking forward to working with them to ease everybody's minds. But yeah, we appreciate the City of Rock Island and everybody that's involved, and we're excited to come to Rock Island, that's for sure.
Thank you. Would now like to open it up for questions. Anybody got any questions? Go ahead.
Hi, so I'm wondering, what are the developer incentives going to look like? Are they from the TIF districts? Are they sales-based? What are they going to look like? How much?
All the incentives, and once again, Miles and them could probably answer this even better, but all the incentives are based on sales. So there is no taxpayers' money being used for this project. Whether the money comes, most of it's rebates from the taxes or the other development plan, the PDU. And so it's based on sales. So if they don't have the sales that they talk about, the incentive is not as big. It does have a cap by time and also by dollars. I believe it's $6 million? $6 million. But once again, it's performance-based.
And would that incentive be provided based on the incremental development itself creates, or would it be based on?
The whole TIF, it comes in a pot, and so, but we already have a development agreement with the casino out there, and so they're getting some of that TIF money also with that development agreement for some improvements that they are in the process of doing. So TIF money can only be spent in the TIF district that's laid out. And so it would be a combination between the casino, this development, and the wetlands.
I'd like to offer a little
That's fine.
elaboration on that.
Absolutely.
So it is important to keep in mind we're talking about two different tools. One is the TIF, the other one is the Business Development District. So the TIF will be used for some of the infrastructure investments, the road, the utilities, and that's where that assistance ends. The BDD, which is generating revenue from the sales, is what will actually be used to help reimburse the developer for some of their construction costs, as the mayor described. So it's important to make that distinction between the two different tools.
Very good. Thank you for that clarification. Yes.
So, can you clarify how much is being spent on the TIF that would be used for the road and the sewer system and the, all of that,
Right.
please?
Miles is going to be best to answer that in detail.
Okay.
We're still working on cost estimates. Obviously, there's a lot of engineering anytime we do a project, building a road or extending utilities. We anticipate, though, it'll be somewhere in the ballpark of about $3 million. What's important for everyone to keep in mind is that money actually is already sitting in an account. So the casino TIF has been around since the casino was originally built. It has generated increment, and so there's actually a pot of funds already accrued for this use. No new money is being taken from anywhere else. This is funds that are not obligated to any other project at this time. So there's no additional funds being collected. It's actually money that's already there.
So taking from that pot, $3 million towards this new development, and I'm assuming there will be additional funds generated once this development is generating property taxes. You said a few times that you're planning to put some of that towards conservation. Do you have an estimate of how much is going to be generated, how much is going to go into conservation, and what that conservation is going to look like?
At this time, we don't have exact numbers, but we are hopeful. The two different tools have slightly different timelines. So the existing TIF only has a few years of life left in it, so its use will be primarily upfront for some of the infrastructure investments, as well as some of the initial exploratory work, developing the wetland management plan being the big example of that. As for the BDD, which will exist for about 23 years after its creation, that will be ongoing work. The planning process will help us to identify some of the more nitty-gritty details of projected revenues, as well as where those revenues should really be dedicated. Again, that plan will help kind of lay out a budget going forward for any continuing investments.
Let me add to that also. We don't know the exact tax valuation of the new development. The county will be setting that, and so we don't know that exact number either, what they'll put on the value of the building. Yes.
I know there's been some opposition from the activists on the Shiv Hattery study, criticisms of its methods, and I've heard today that there are 2 other studies, I think. I know you've said that federal and state oversight will happen somewhere down the line on this project, but given the current state of the federal government with cuts happening, protesters have expressed doubt that there will be sufficient federal oversight. I was wondering if you could talk about those other 2 studies.
I could talk about it a little bit, but there's no federal funds, so there's no federal, we don't have to talk to the federal government about a number of those issues. But Miles could talk about the other reports.
You mentioned 2, I think you mean 3. So there were 3 additional studies done. So the Phase 1 ESA that covered the entire amount of land that Riverstone donated to the city, that was done just as a high-level overview to identify any obvious red flags from an environmental concern perspective. The 3 additional studies that have now been done were specific to the 10 acres of development that we are talking about. Those included a more site-specific environmental assessment that went a little bit deeper than the original one did. A wetland delineation study which confirmed what we knew, which is that the site itself is not a wetland. There's a small sliver on the southern end that's literally in the water. That's wet, but nothing else. And then the final one was a soil conditions assessment, basically looking at what kind of soils are there and how deep the water table is. The water table is about 20 feet deep, actually, on the site, so very favorable. The soil as well, perfectly buildable. Going forward, there may be additional studies that we will need to do as we move through the permitting process. We will, as the mayor mentioned, consult with any other agencies at the state or federal level that we need to and take direction from them. I think we're also looking for some direction from the task force. If there's some additional things we might not be required to do, but it would be nice to do, and we will, of course, consider what they suggest.
Yeah, one of the concerns brought up at that public hearing was the Big Island and the levee. Have you spoken to that group? Have you talked about removing their land from the TIF? What's the state of that right now?
Either way. You know, at this point, it is involved in the TIF strictly because we own a good-sized number of acres there. And at some point, we may want to develop that. It has nothing to do with the levee. We don't plan on changing the levee. We've had some conversations with them, but that is not part of the plan or with this at all. Once again, maybe the hopes are to run some water and sewer over there to create residential in that area in the future. So we've included it just to be able to have that opportunity. It is not part of the, quote, Mylan Bottoms. It is not wetlands. It is actually farmable, not flood. There's out of the floodplain. And so that's a whole different issue separate from what we've been talking about here. But that is just so there's an opportunity for future development there, whatever that may be or may not be. But that is different.
What's the total construction cost expected and the timetable? You said you're scheduling a groundbreaking, and is the groundbreaking going to be postponed until all the approvals and the task force meets, et cetera?
Jeff, would you like to comment on that? Your timetable?
Timetable, we'll do groundbreaking here, like you said, within the next month. We'd like to start moving dirt shortly after that. We have a year commitment with the city, I believe, to start construction, but we are looking forward to starting right away. Our total budget costs right now are going to range from $12 to $15 million. That's just for what's sitting right now. We do have future plans for a craft grow facility to go off of the dispensary, and those could run $5 to $8 million. So overall, rather large commitment on our end.
So what are the formal approvals the council has to still do for the project to go forward?
So I said in my comments, they've already approved a development agreement. The next steps for them are just the final votes on the expanded TIF district and the establishment of the new business development district. After that, the developer will submit the normal sorts of site plans and building plans to my staff, and we will review those for compliance with the code. If they're not requesting any specific variances or deviations from the code, the council will not need to review additional documents. It'll go through the normal standard development review process.
What sort of timeline are we looking at for the conservation easement at this point?
As the mayor stated, the goal here is to have something within a 6-month period. The council will be voting to direct staff formally to begin that as soon as possible, again, in consultation with the new task force.
Yeah, and I'm curious a little bit about the scale of the gas station. You've mentioned it's just a few pumps. Do we have a number of those? I'm having a little trouble. I can't tell which part of the rendering is the gas station. I mean, what's kind of the scale expected on that?
So the gas station is actually the center building there, the white roof. We have right now showing about 4,000 square feet for that gas station facility. And then off to the left of that is actually an end cap for a full-service restaurant, fast food, something along those lines. That ranging about 2,500 square feet. I believe there's 20 gas pumps and 10 diesels. And we're also installing, if you see on the right-hand side, on the far side of that site plan there, we are going to do 10 Tesla superchargers. So there's a major need for that in this area. The closest one to us is, I believe, Hy-Vee on 53rd, and then the next stop would be like Peoria. So there's a big need for that as well. So.
I think there was in the back. Did you have a question? Okay.
She's not with the press.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay. Yes.
Does the city feel like the numerous gas stations, strip malls, and big shops are being less slighted by the city, rather than the city taking the John Muir approach and being
Yeah.
facilitating the whole area?
The vape shops are a totally different issue, and you can follow city council with that. We put a moratorium on that, and we're rewriting the vapes. But this is not a vape shop. This is this at all. This is strictly a marijuana dispensary and consumption of that.
How about the gas stations and strip malls? Are they,
That we're talking at this point. We're talking about this site and this development along with the wetlands.
Yeah, so it was recently Mylan told News 8 that there was some different choices that NTI chose to stay in Mylan and was expanding to Rock Island. Just want to clear that up. Is that the case? Was it always the plan to stay in Mylan, or were they wanting to leave Mylan?
NTI has outgrown that facility. NTI is the #1 dispensary in the state, 12th in the nation. We need to expand to service our customers. We need the smoking lounge. We got to offer basically all the amenities that we're doing here that we can't do there. So for us, for our growth side of things, it's very important to get this development done just so we can service the customers. We have a really large customer base there on a daily basis. So I was not involved in any conversations with the Village of Mylan. I'm not, as far as I know, Matt was not involved in any conversations with this. And I'm here to say we're coming to Rock Island.
That would be co-owner Matt Stern.
Yes.
So was it always the plan to leave Mylan? Did that change?
Was it always the plan?
To leave Mylan?
We've planned on this, well, we've been working on this for several months now, yeah. So.
But you're also staying in Mylan? Are you staying in Mylan?
We have one license, so that license will transfer from whatever facility we move to. So it's impossible to stay in 2 locations with 1 license. So we are actively tracking more license. So, but as of this point, we only have 1 license.
Okay, you might want to clear that up with Mylan. They told us that
Pardon?
You might want to, I'm sorry, you might want to clear that up with Mylan. I think they're under their impression that there is an expansion to Rock Island, not a move to Rock Island at this point.
We'll still have a building in Milan, but we don't have a license to operate a dispensary there once we move it to this new location.
Okay.
So I don't know where the confusion was or how it was portrayed, but we're coming to Rock Island.
Okay.
Thank you. I think we're done.
Anything further? Seeing none, we are done with this press conference. Thank you very much for your attendance.